We are back in the black hole of real estate, and we're going to talk about interest rates and what's going on with the Fed and what it could mean to you as far as making a purchase, or if you're thinking of selling, there could be a new window of opportunity for you. This is your host, Ron Weiss-Sikarsky. And yeah, the Fed, as predicted, they dropped rates and they did the quarter point drop. I was really hoping to see a half point drop, and there's some reasons behind that, but it's absolutely a step in the right direction. And based on what Jerome Powell mentioned in the minutes, it looks like more rate reductions are on the way. So these are things that we've been waiting for it to happen. And of course, it took longer than anybody would have wanted it to take, well, most people. But now it's here. So what we saw on the Fed meeting minutes of the 17th of September is that there's a quarter point rate drop. It's been largely priced in among the banks and retail lenders that are doing home mortgages, among other things. But what we will find is that I believe some banks will be a little bit more aggressive. But rest assured, right now, the rate drops are going to happen. Matter of fact, the meeting minutes also intimated, as well as the speech, that there are two Fed meetings left in the year. And it's likely that both of those will also see a reduction. And at this point, the chalk bet is that it's going to be a quarter point at each. So we're looking at two more rate reductions of a half, totaling another 0.5%. That's going to make big differences in the mortgage rates that you'll experience between now and the end of the year. And an aggressive lender, as I mentioned, might start pricing that in right now, knowing that some of these closings are not going to take place for 30, 60, 90 days down the road. So it's getting good if you're a buyer. It's also kind of good if you're a seller. We have spent a lot of time talking about interest rates, for the last year, and it may just happen that the prediction I made, and been talking about, rates may touch down to 5.875 by the end of the year. They may bounce a little bit, but I think 5.875, 6.125, somewhere in there is where you're going to be for the next little bit. So buckle up. I think you'll find six and a quarter, 6.375 readily available in the days and weeks ahead. And if you want to pay some discount points or do things like 2-1 interest rate buy downs, there's going to be some products out there that are going to help you out. Now, keep in mind, if you're locking in at a rate, and let's just call it six-ish right now, there are lenders out there that will lock in a lower rate refinance for you, waiving the lending fees. So think of it this way. If you lock in at 6% right now and rates go to, I don't know, 5, 4.5 in the next 5 years, they'll float you down to that rate. You'll have to have another closing, but they'll waive all the lending fees. I'm sure there's some nominal closing costs, but there's some really good deals out there. And it's a great time to shop for a lender that has programs like that to save you money so you can buy in today's rate, buy at today's pricing for homes, and then have the ability to refinance rather easily down the road. Now, I have mentioned that this could help out buyers in the form of lower monthly payments. This is something we've been, really looking for. And now we can start to see a distance between last year where the rates were, they felt like 7.5 in some cases, but even the high sixes. And now we're at the low sixes. And now the tide is turning a little bit. We see that applications are up already and that buyer interest is also up. We can tell because the phone is ringing. And we know that as people are ringing the phone looking at properties, something's changed. And I think that the interest rate has a big, big role in this. And not just for those that are using mortgages. It's also competition now for those that were paying cash for properties and maybe having their offers looked at, more favorably because they were the only game in town as finance buyers were hesitant to buy. Now they're jumping back in. As a seller, this should be exciting to you. If you are priced appropriately for your location and condition, you're probably going to see some offers coming in that maybe were dragging over the last several months. It was a slower summer than anybody would have wanted, and now the wheels are turning back in the right direction. So for sellers, if you've been lingering on the market, hope is on the way. Maybe recheck the marketing, recheck what you're doing is with regards to price, and are you open-minded to negotiate to be the next one sold? That might be a really, really good scenario for you. What is also happening is we're seeing some sellers that were reluctant to go on the market are ringing the phone as well. And they want to explore the possibility of selling now and in between, perhaps the time between now and the end of the year. The summer business, the change of school year business, now has, we've moved on from that. But if there are investors out there, some have to buy before the end of the year to use up allocated funds from 1031 exchange or other investment vehicles. But there's also some people that are going to need to, you know, sell by the end of the year for whatever tax reasons they might have. So there's investors that are selling, investors that are buying between now and December 31st, and that day becomes very critical to them. So there is a new mix of market where there are additional players in there, whether it's investors or retail buyers or those buying their first investment property, a vacation property. Maybe, the snow season is coming, those snowbirds, instead of renting, are going to buy. There's excitement in the air. There's opportunity right in front of us right now. So it gets to be a very, very interesting time. And if you are thinking of buying, just know that the rates you're experiencing right now are lower than they've been at any point in time in probably at least the last year, probably longer. And with that, if there's a property that you see on the market, it might actually sell a little bit faster right now. And it doesn't mean we're going back to COVID times where people are going to purchase properties, willy-nilly. How about that one? With no inspections and waiving, appraisal waivers and things like that. But there will be an increase in activity. And all along it suggests that prices have held firm or maybe even increased in a lot of markets. We've seen quarter over quarter increases from last year to this year of about 3%. So prices didn't actually retrace at all. They went up a little bit. And I think that trend might continue. Now, do I think they're going to go up 10% a month? No, of course not. But I don't see that prices are going to come down because rates come down. I think that affordability goes up. I think prices go up a little bit. But what you might experience is that somebody's been on the market a long time and may be priced way above the market. They will reduce their listing price in a market such as this. And I've seen condos that have come down $50,000, $100,000 that were probably priced way above the market, maybe just overly optimistic or overly hopeful. But now they're like, I do want to sell. I want to move on. And my situation is such that I'm ready to take a price that makes sense to me, but also makes sense to the buyer that's different than they felt even 3 months ago, let alone 6 months or a year ago. The market will now not superheat, but increase, I would say monthly between now and the end of the year because there's two more Fed rates that are going to change. Just because the rates change doesn't mean somebody's going to buy or sell today, but now they're looking. And with increased, I would say, activity on the market, that will lead to more sales between now and the end of the year. So if you are watching what the market reports are and you've been studying and studying right now, the opportunity to buy on the dip of the market, that may be slowly moving away. But the excitement of finding more inventory into things that you actually want might just be worth paying for right now. And with lower rates, a little bit less money out of pocket every month with your monthly mortgage payment. So that's a whirlwind tour. What's going on? The market rates finally came down. It's a super good time to be in the market. And I'm excited to bring you the news. So let's stay tuned over here. If you haven't done it yet, it's time to hit the subscribe button and definitely leave some comments so we can help you with our next topic. Look forward to catching up with you on our next episode of the Black Hole of Real Estate. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski. See you next week.